Now, Manchester United's hopes of qualifying for next season's Champions League were dealt a major blow after they were beaten at home by Fulham. Stephen, is it fair to say that there's different ways of losing a game? Sometimes you can lose a game, you go, OK.
Yeah.
But this one wasn't a snatch and grab by Fulham,
wasn't.
Was it? So does that make it worse? United outplayed at times here. So how damaging for the confidence will that be?
Yeah, it will be. This isn't the first time that Manchester United have been outplayed at home, though, by a so-called lesser club, a smaller club. I look back at the Bournemouth performance when they dominated Manchester United. They were probably not as lucky, but Luton played well there. But this game, Fulham dominated, created plenty of opportunities to win the game by a bigger score. Probably, again, weren't as clinical as you'd hope to be away from home, especially given all the chances. But yeah, Manchester United just afforded far too many opportunities to them and deservedly lost the game. I think there's been too many games this year where United have not played well but have come away with a result. The other game was obviously Wolves as well at the start of the season, where Wolves dominated the game as well and played exceptionally well and created a lot of opportunities. And they got away with one that night with the VAR decision against them. But yeah, United fans can't be happy with this at the moment. I know there's been a few cracks papered over in recent weeks, but the performances haven't been great.
No, perhaps cracks papered over.
Easy for you to say?
Yeah, I had to stop and restart. A lot has been made of the fact that Rasmus Hojlund ruled out of the game through injury. Marcus Rashford started up front. Is that a huge worry that if that was the reason, that Manchester United were reliant on quite a young centre forward to carry them through times of trouble?
Yeah, well, I think not only are you missing a forward that's in form at the moment, he's scoring goals, he's playing well, but I think it was the disruption to that front line that have been working and have been really fluid. Obviously, Rashford went centrally, so it's taken him out of his position. Garnacho went back to the left, whereas we've said he's looked really effective on that right-hand side, and then a young man in Forson coming in on that right-hand side. So I think the disruption didn't help. I think not having Martinez and Shaw, I think that's an issue for Manchester United, not only defensively, but the way that they build up from the back. So I think that the injuries have certainly played a part in that, but I totally agree with Stephen that we've watched Manchester United in terms of getting results and picking results up recently, but the performances still haven't been completely convincing. They might have played well for 10, 15 minutes, or we've seen an individual bit of quality, or we've seen the front three do something, but consistently through the 90 minutes, we've not really seen a fully convincing performance from Manchester United.
Yeah, you mentioned Amari Forson there, a 19-year-old preferred the £86 million Anthony. What does that tell you?
Well, it's quite interesting as well after the game that Erik ten Hag comes out and says he doesn't have the players available to him that he wants, and you go, well, hang about, you bought a player for that amount of money, but now you're trusting an academy graduate in front of him. I think it speaks volumes to where United are at the moment and what's going on in the training ground, what he's seeing to give a youngster a chance in front of a huge signing. Anthony's career's not been fantastic since he joined Manchester United. For that price, the big thing I will say is he can't help that price tag. United paid it, whether they should or shouldn't have. They paid it in the end. There's big pressure on him to perform. He hasn't performed. He hasn't been good enough for the football club. So does he deserve to start? No, I don't think he does. I think it comes to a point where a manager's got to make a decision and go, you've not been good enough, you don't deserve to start.
So you were sat just about there. Well, Paul Merson was sitting just about here, and he was...
He was furious.
I hate it when he sits on the fence, Paul. But he was quite outspoken on what he thought of the performance and maybe their chances of sort of even Champions League next season. And yet I hear Erik ten Hag saying he can see the progress that's being made. So where lies the truth?
I think Paul Merson sat there and watched the whole 90 minutes and he just said that they didn't look good enough, and that's what we've pretty much said in terms of they started to pick up those results, and you thought, well, you can gain momentum, you can gain confidence, you can gain those I suppose, relationships and you can continually get better, will they then start putting pressure on to get into those Champions League spots? But like I say, the performances still haven't been there. If you were seeing them, but not so much the results, and then when you take out 3 or 4 key players that help the way that you play, it's always going to be pretty different. But I think it goes back to, doesn't it, making sure that the off-the-field stuff is right and is put in place because of, like we mentioned, Anthony, you know, you've got to get in the right sort of players. It just shows the recruitment has been poor for a long period of time. So you get the right player, you get the right people in the right positions off the field. It's clearly then going to have an impact on the field.
But here's the conundrum, which hopefully between the two of you can solve for me, because you mentioned £86 million, Anthony. We've got profit and sustainability rules. We've got Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the new co-owner, talking about knocking City and Liverpool off their perch and Manchester United being a force for the title here. Problem is, how many of those players at United can you sell? Because you'd have to sell them in order to bring... You can't just write a blank cheque here and rebuild United. No. So how many years is this going to take? Because I'm looking at the likes of Anthony and thinking, you're not going to get a return on your 86 million there. So that's going to go down as loss in your profit and sustainability columns, isn't it? So how do you get yourself out of this with all the good intentions that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got? I mean, this is maybe why Chelsea have gone down this sort of line of 8-year contracts for young kids, hoping that eventually it will pay off.
Yeah, I think that is what you're looking at with Chelsea. But going back to Anthony, I think you do well to recoup half of what you've paid for him. I think the big thing is that, it sounds terrible this, but you're almost hoping that the Saudi League again goes, well, come on, take a few of these off your hands. I mean, Chelsea were lucky last year that the Saudi League spent a lot of money on Chelsea's players who were deemed surplus to requirements, and that helped balance the books. Will that happen again this year? I'm not so sure it will, because you'd look at a lot of the United players and think they're not good enough. You are going to have to take a hit on them. I think it'll be one of those situations for United where they'll look at it and go, commercially, they're very strong. They're going to have to make big money commercially off the field to try and balance the books a little bit better of what they do. I know he's talking about the new stadium, potentially trying to build a new stadium, making it bigger. It's big talk to come in and say you're going to knock them off the perch, especially the positions that both football clubs are in and where they are. And I put Arsenal in that mix as well. I think the three of them are streets ahead of a lot of the teams in where they are. You've got to do clever business. I mean, even yesterday, and I don't want to really go back to it too much, but you look at even Chelsea against Liverpool and you go, Caicedo and Endo have cost 226 million, and then you Enzo Fernandez, and then you go, Endo and McAllister cost Liverpool a combined 56 million. Well, there's your business, there's your clever model. Yeah. There's where you have to be clever behind the scenes and creative as to who you buy and what you buy, and try and pick up deals. And that's where Manchester United might have to be for the next 2-3 years before they start spending the 80-90 millions again.
I think it's going to be a hard day's night for Sir Jim and Sir Dave at Old Trafford trying to work that one out.